Hello, folks. Councilman Rasmussen here, coming to you with an update from our February 5th, 2024 council meeting. It's actually been a little while since I've done an update video. The winter time is my major production time here at my business, the distillery in town. So it's been tough to carve out time in the morning to do updates after our last council meeting. So I apologize for lateness. I will do a couple of catch-up videos specifically about town budget stuff that has basically consumed the last couple of months of my life. And I want to do like a separate video on that once we get the town budget passed. We are well behind, and it is a major frustration for myself and the other council members, as well as members of the community and our town staff. That is working its way through. Hopefully it will be on the agenda at our next council meeting and we will be able to get it passed. And then I'd like to do probably a long video explaining that process and sort of giving people a picture into why it has taken so long and what the elements are and what it took to get that done. So I'm not going to really touch on that tonight or this morning. I'm going to go over the other items that were on our council agenda from yesterday and just try and get back into the rhythm of giving folks a bi-monthly update on the happenings of council. So first things first, as far as updates, general updates from the town, we had our first real snowfall from the last couple of years. My kids were very excited, especially my son Cole, who's now 7 and has never really seen the snow here in town. The town staff obviously was out in force making sure that the roads were clear and safe. They did a great job. We certainly appreciate that. Didn't get any significant number of complaints, got some DelDOT complaints, but for the most part I think our staff did a great job, and thank you very much to them for all the work that it took to keep the town clean and safe during that. Hopefully that's the only snow event we get. Well, I hope. My kids obviously feel differently. That's the only snow event we get this year. They certainly are an expense to the town that we don't need in a tough budget year, but great job to everybody. As far as the agenda and items and things, we did start off the meeting yesterday with a proclamation recognizing and celebrating Black History Month. Councilwoman Upshur read that into the minutes, and then we really delved in. We had a long agenda, so there weren't a lot of other updates that were part of that in order to move the agenda along. And even with that, we didn't get home till 10:30 last night. So as far as general business items that were on the agenda that we covered, we started the night off with a presentation from the Smyrna School District. Most folks hopefully know this. Smyrna is going out for a referendum. The vote is going to be on March 9th. They actually gave us a nice little presentation. It'll be backwards to you. And walked us through basics of what is on the referendum, the reason why they're going out for a referendum again. The last one was, I believe, in either 2020 or 2021. The major piece of it is that there has been massive increases in because of inflation in the cost to build the buildings. So in 2021, they planned on expanding North Smyrna Elementary, doing renovations to the Smyrna Middle School or Clayton Intermediate School to be able to convert it into a middle school, and then ultimately building a new intermediate school out off of Rabbit Chase Lane across from Sunnyside. The costs of those projects since they were originally approved has ballooned to the tune of, I believe, about another $37 million. So they have to go back out for an updated referendum in order to be able to address those costs, as well as some of the security concerns, placing constables in all the schools, some of the improvements that they'd like to do. So they shared a lot of information. It's all up on their website. There's a QR code that you can find. If you go to some of their events and some of the website or just head there, you can see everything that they shared with us last night. And ultimately, they're asking for your support on March 9th. And I don't know all the details on where the voting will take place. It's probably at each one of the schools, but you can probably find all of that information on their website. So make sure you check it out, learn about it, make an informed decision. So we started off with that. The second item on our agenda was actually something that the town has been working on for a very long time. which is updates to our comprehensive plan. So we adopted a new comprehensive plan in 2021. Or we went through the process in 2021. I believe we adopted at the beginning of 2022. As part of that, we have to do a massive rezoning or a comprehensive rezoning to bring all of the properties in town that will see a zoning change into compliance. Something like 900 properties in town total that need to be rezoned based on the approved comprehensive plan. We have been one-off making these, and I mentioned it in the past, where we're one-off making changes as they've come forward, because doing a comprehensive rezoning is a very, very time-intensive thing, and because of staffing changes and some issues, it's been delayed multiple times. So we're finally moving forward with it. It's going to be in 2 phases. So the first phase, the letters for that are going to be going out any day now to the people who will be part of the first large rezoning. And then there's going to be flyers and signs, those sort of like political yard sign types of things, put up all over town. They all have a QR code on them. You can scan them to go to all the information. There's going to be a couple of public meetings about this. So if you want to, you can attend those public meetings and ask questions. We got an updated map last night to sort of try and show what is going to be addressed. Basically, the first step on this is we're going to be doing pretty much the downtown, the blue stuff. It's a new zoning district that has been created called Downtown Residential. It more closely mirrors the realities of our downtown versus a standard what we would call R2 residential zoning, because those requirements don't necessarily meet how most of the older homes in downtown have been built over the years. So this updates that to make it clear sort of what the requirements are for that, because we see tons and tons of rezoning or zoning of variances and requests associated with this area, because the zoning that we have doesn't really match up with how the homes were built, the yard sizes, the lot sizes, those sort of things. Ideally, they'll cut down on a lot of the rezoning activities that the town has to do one-offs on. The second phase of this, which will be probably in March, April, is going to address the corridor, the Route 13 corridor properties, and some of the other properties that are around that area, to make sure that that zoning matches the zoning that was approved by the state for our in the comprehensive plan. So if you're in that downtown area, you're going to see something relatively soon. Some properties may see this twice if you happen to border one of the properties that is being rezoned in the first round and the second round. So keep an eye out. Hit the QR code. Check out when the meetings are. If you have questions, show up. Obviously, reach out to myself or members of council if you have questions. Happy to provide you more information. So we got an update on that. There was no action from council. It was more just, here's what the plan is. Be on the lookout. The third item that we talked about was an updated fee schedule. So every year we are required to update our impact fees to match increases in the town's costs associated with inflation, basically. So this is a yearly activity that we have to do. We have to update our fee schedule to adjust for inflation to make sure that the town is able to cover our expenses associated with all planning and inspection activities that are occurring in town. So most of that is sort of just rudimentary stuff that we do every year. There were 2 changes that we did to it this year. One is we updated how we calculate the value of construction. For the longest time, for the last, as long as anyone could feel, back into the 90s or so, the town has used a calculation that was derived from Kent County about how to calculate the value of construction. So say you have a house, it's going to be built. Right now, we had examples where a house may be costing $250,000 to actually be built, but because of this calculation, we were only applying the permit fee to the first to about $150,000 in value. So it was fine a long time ago, before the cost of construction had gone up dramatically and the costs to oversee and permit in those construction. So we've had to basically do what other communities have done, and we've moved to setting our fee based on the actual cost of construction rather than a calculation. And we adjusted the fee rates. So specifically for commercial projects over $1 million, Those projects, we used to have a set $5.50 per $1,000 of construction value is the building permit fee. That is very, very low compared to pretty much every decent sized municipality in the state. In some cases, we're a third of what some of those other ones are. So we increased ours based on what we think is reasonable, based on our actual costs to provide the services associated with those type of permits and those building activities. It's going up from $5.50 to $7 per $100 of assessed value, and it's something that we need to keep an eye on. We don't want to get too far behind. There are real costs to the town. We have to employ the inspectors for large commercial projects. We have to bring in outside inspectors and provide lots and lots of oversight. Real costs to the town, as well as all the planning activities and things that go in that ultimately get supported by these building permit fees and some of the impact fees and other things that come along with it. So we made an update to that. No real issues were associated with it. We got an update on what's called the ORPT grants. Every year we can apply for funding for our parks. It's a matching grant, so if we apply for $100,000, we have to put in $100,000. The ORPT grants have been used to help pay for things like the new bathrooms that went in last week. They're almost complete at the municipal park. They've paid for the basketball courts that we have over in Green Meadows and Sunnyside. And this year they're going to help pay for redoing the bleachers and the fencing and all those things at the baseball and softball fields that are in the municipal park. So it's something we apply for every year. It's a matching grant, but it helps us make needed improvements to our park. So we got an update on where we stand on those. There was a little piece about granting easements across Dwight Avenue. Most people don't know what Dwight Avenue is. It's basically a little driveway that's going to be pretty much behind the new library where it's going in. Verizon, Comcast, other folks need access to be able to run their services to the new library, and they have to technically cross Dwight Avenue, which means they needed a variance from the town to be able to do it, or an easement, sorry, a utility easement. No objections to that. It's something that happens all the time. We had another discussion item around whether or not we want to make a code change to every year guarantee or set that the funds from vacant property fees will go to the Smyrna Slum Clearance and Redevelopment Authority. The RDA is an entity that the town created a number of years ago to help encourage investment in the downtown and what we call our redevelopment area. They provide facade grants, technical support, things like that to building owners and homeowners who are looking to make improvements to their property in this older section, this downtown, or mostly the downtown. Every year we have sent the vacant property fees that the town collects to the RDA as their funding source. It's been a thing that we voted on every year. It comes, they make a request, we make the vote to send it on to them. The idea is that they would like it to just be ensconced in the code, that every year, or at like a regular interval, maybe quarterly or every year, those vacant property fees are just automatically transferred over to them. This was not a code amendment that was pitched last night. It was really just, do we want to even do that, or do we want to consider it rather? Sometimes it's nice to talk about things before you send your attorney to go draft a code change. So it seemed like there was at least a decent support for the idea of implementing a code change like this, and it'll probably come back to us in another meeting or two. Probably one of the longest parts of the conversation we had last night was regarding our enterprise resource system. So we have, for the last almost 3 years, been implementing a new enterprise resource system called Munis, moving away from the previous vendor that we had. It has been far too long, far too expensive, and we are nowhere near full implementation. There's a lot of reasons for that. No small part, it has to do with the lack of staff, both the number of staff and the consistency of staff over the last couple of years in implementing this project. So that's the on us part. It's also been that we have run into lots and lots of technical issues with implementing it on the part of the vendor. It's been very, very frustrating. In the budget process that we've been going through for the last couple of months, we have run into huge issues and inconsistencies in the data that we're able to get from this system, which has, it certainly hasn't helped the way that the council and the town staff feel about this implementation. So the conversation was, do we investigate, do we keep putting basically good money after bad at this point to try and get this fully implemented, or do we look to, go back to the system we were using or look at other systems? It's going to be an ongoing conversation before a decision gets made, because there's lots and lots of things to consider. But I think that the general feeling from the town staff or the town council was, and direction to staff was, investigate what our other options are, find something simpler, something that our staff can be comfortable with, and something that can ultimately provide us with the accurate information that we need in order to make smart financial decisions. Very, very frustrating. It has been very frustrating as I've spent the last couple of months working with the town staff on budget issues. This has been a constant source of problems. So more to come on that. We then had two sort of preliminary discussions, one around the possible, what sort of possible zoning would we want to have or allowable, or do we want to allow, recreational marijuana in any form. So folks have probably followed this a little bit. The state, a little bit more than a year ago, legalized recreational marijuana. The process, as it's set out, will begin fairly soon, I think, to actually begin licensing the people that can be either a cultivator, grower, processor, which are the folks who would turn the flower, the plants, into whatever, edibles and things like that. And then the third would be retailers. Each one of those have different requirements. Each one of those have different potential issues and potential upsides. And the town has to make a decision about what it is that we want to allow in our community. Do we want to allow these businesses to exist in certain zoning areas? Do we want to set certain requirements were they to exist? There's lots of flexibility that the state law has given municipalities in determining what that can look like in their town. Some towns have gone ahead and done a blanket prohibition. They don't want any of these. The conversation we had last night was that I think we are much more amenable to finding a middle ground, to finding a way to allow these businesses to come in, but put requirements on them to make sure that they don't have a negative impact on the quality of life of the people who are close to those businesses. One of the major complaints in researching this from places around the country is odor, especially associated with cultivation and processing. There are technologies out there to help mitigate that odor. It's far easier to require those on the front end than to have a problem and have to go back and tell somebody you've already licensed to make changes. So we want to get it right. I think it's going to be handed to our planning and inspections with sort of the instructions to find the Planning and Zoning Commission to find a way to craft zoning requirements and things that reflect the idea that we want to be open to it. It is coming. It has the potential upside of ideally driving revenue. We sell, a lot of our money comes from water and sewer and electric. Big cultivation and processing facilities would use lots of those things, which is good for the town's bottom line and good for the taxpayers in town. But we want to do it right. So this was an initial conversation. There will be a lot more. We also had an initial conversation about the real estate property assessment. So pretty much everyone at this point has gotten the letters from Kent County about the reassessment that's going on. And it's a complicated process. It's been going on for a couple of years now. Kent County hadn't updated their assessments in over 30 years. And what it means is that there's a lot of inequality in the system. New homes or old homes, and people are not assessed at a rate that reflects the actual sort of properties that they have. Everyone, I believe, has already received what they would call their fair market value assessment for kind of what Kent County thinks the property is worth. There'll be another assessment that actually comes out that is the assessed value, or another letter that comes out that says the assessed value, which is approximately 60% of the fair market value. And then that would be the rate that people are taxed on. So Town of Smyrna uses something similar to that. We haven't updated ours since 2006, but it's a calculation that determines what the property tax would be. We pay a good bit of money every year to have Tyler Technologies do updates to these as there are new properties, as a new home is built or renovations are done, people add an addition to a home, things like that. So it's sort of a little bit on a rolling basis, but we have not done comprehensive reassessment in coming up on 20 years. Not as bad as Kent County or the other counties, but certainly not good. So the question is now that Kent County is doing a reassessment and then is going to be also statutorily required to keep that assessment up every 5 years, would it make sense for the town to adopt whatever Kent County's value is that they are determining on a rolling basis, so that we don't have to do that work ourselves and we can update our system? Any updates to this have to be revenue neutral, meaning if Kent County's bringing in $100 million, they're not. But if they were bringing in $100 million before the reassessment, they can only bring in $100 million after the reassessment. Smyrna would be required to do the same thing. Our tax rate, if we were bringing in $10 million in taxes before a reassessment, we would be required to be $10 million after. It has to be revenue neutral, which means you adjust your tax rate because the assessments have changed. It's a preliminary conversation. It's one we're going to be having for a while. Kent County won't even get through theirs until the middle of this year, and it wouldn't be until next year that we would have to make a decision to adopt those, and then there'd probably be a whole process how we communicate that. So long term, but that conversation has started at the council level. And then we had two things that are things we do every year. One is we approve the senior tax exemption form. So for seniors, folks living on fixed income over a certain age, they can apply to the town to have their a cap on their real estate property taxes. Something the town does every year. So we were approving that form again, allowing people the opportunity to apply and have a cap applied to their properties for people who are older, people who are living on a fixed income. And then we also have a modular home placement permit exemption application. So people who live in modular homes that do not own their property but own their homes. So Bon Air is the largest of these in our community. They don't benefit from a tax cap because they're not paying their taxes directly, but they do pay a fee. We do have an exemption process for folks living on fixed incomes, older folks living on fixed incomes, where they can exempt themselves from that fee if they apply. So we had to approve that, the applications from that as well. Something that we do every year to make sure that the folks who are older and have the least ability to increase their income because of taxes and things like that, that we don't have as much of an adverse impact on them as we possibly could. So that was a lot. And like I said, we didn't even touch on budget stuff. I will be doing a whole update on that at some point in the future. That'll be probably a quite long video. Maybe we'll do it one evening and we can all sit around and have a glass of wine or whiskey while we watch. But as always, if there's any questions, please reach out. Please let me know. I'm sorry I have all the ones I missed for January. Not doing updates. I'm going to get back on this. And but thank you, everyone, and take care. Have a great week. Bye. Sorry, it won't let me hang up. Oh no.